everybody. I'm Beth Smith. I'm one of the founders of PEP, and we're waiting for one other family, but we're going to go ahead and get started. Feel free to get up and get pizza, and thank you, Justin, for the pizza. I'm going to give you a brief introduction. Wait a minute, I have something on my phone. Sorry, this is our first, I think, real life in-person meeting, kind of kicking off PEP Works. We do have someone involved with it already. Layton Hubers is involved with Jerry Hera. You've seen Jerry on the video, I'm sure. Jerry Bierman. So we have one student that's sort of piloting the pilot, and this is the real pilot today that we're introducing today. This is really important, and it came home to me yesterday because my husband was not supposed to be working because of Martin Luther King Day, and we'd had a guest over the weekend, and she said, I just want you to know that in the guest bathroom the faucet's leaking. And so yesterday my husband spent his holiday trying to fix it, and he wasn't able to, so he had to go and buy a new faucet, and then he had to take out the old one and put on the new one. And you know, he's a blue-collar worker, manager, but he has skills and bravery enough to try stuff like that, and we have a beautiful new faucet. And it just took all day and 4 trips to Lowe's. So
that's so fun.
It's what is so important, I think, boys or girls, to have practical building and repairing skills. And this is so much part of what it means to be part of PEP, because our overarching verse for PEP is seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. And so if you seek first God's kingdom, well, what is God doing here on earth? He's building and repairing the earth. So this fits right into practical skills and having a skill work. It makes you a better family member. It makes you able to serve your family and your friends, and it just makes you generally a more equipped person to live on the earth, to have these kinds of skills. I want to introduce today, this is Justin Wolfenberg and Jerry Bierman. Justin runs a family business, entrepreneurship for remodeling homes and renting them out. He's a homeschool dad of 6. And Jerry, you're all 6 are still at home, right?
Yes.
Okay. Jerry Bierman has graduated 2 of his 4 children from homeschooling. They're out on their own and launch, off the payroll, which is our goal. Yeah. He has Alluring Glass Company, and he's really an entrepreneur and a business leader. And he has an organization called Conduit, which is a business leader network of Christian leaders, pretty much, and he mentors and inspires them in the city of Cincinnati or the greater area of Cincinnati. The program today that we're introducing that Justin and Jerry have created is called Conduit Apprenticeship Program. It's to train and mentor teenagers practically and formally in building and repair skills, while informally, and this is the kicker, mentoring them in living a life of Christian character as an ambassador of Christ. Now, in the world's education system, they would have you choose between brains and brawn, between having practical skills or academia, going on to college, or go out and get a job and start making a living. You can't be educated and do both in this mindset of the world. You give up your high school education and train, for, I forget what they call it, VOTEC, I guess, when I was in high school, and you quit learning the academic things the humanities that make you be able to live life well here on planet Earth. And you give that up for a job. At PEP, we believe if you go straight into a trade, instead of going on and continuing your formal education in college, you need PEP even more. The CAP program, I think, is really important because if you choose not to go on to college after high school, chances are you're not going to have college debt, and you're more apt to have a house before all those college graduates. You're also more apt to have a job than all those college graduates in the career climate that we find ourselves in today. So this is extremely important, what these gentlemen are going to do for you. Bruce Chester, another founder of PEP, had an idea. He said, why not prepare a young person with a solid 7th through 12th education that offers these important components and leads to immediate employment? A strong biblical training in theology, apologetics, Christian worldview studies, and evangelism. 2, thorough pursuit of ideas that have enriched all of us through the study of the thought, the philosophy, and the literature of the Western intellectual tradition. 3, practical training in formal logic, debate, intelligent conversation to build and use cogent arguments in the defense of the truth. 4, comprehensive studies including the fine arts, history, philosophy, political theory, economic theory, entrepreneurship studies, plus mathematics and science. Everything you want in a plumber, right? And 5th, ongoing mentoring and apprenticeship of the young person by Christian tradesperson in a trade of their choice. Then you're the Renaissance man, and you are going to be advancing the kingdom of God. So I want to welcome these gentlemen today as our first partners in our PEP Works program. We have been praying a long time for people like you to come along, and we're Providence Extension Program. So Providence, once again, has come through and introduced you to us and brought you into our lives. So with no further ado, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Beth. Appreciate it. Thank you all for taking your lunch and coming and being a part of this. This whole thing, I want to just tell a little bit about my story. I'm Justin Wolfenberg, and this sort of was birthed out of something that happened within my family, but I'll just kind of introduce some of the characters here. There we are this summer. There's me and my wife and Layla, who's in the back there. Layla's joined me today. She's our 12-year-old daughter, 14. Henry's in the green shirt. He's 14. Anaya is 12 years old with the black goat, and then Adria is next to her with the white goat at 10 years old. And then there's Thomas, who's with me today. You raise your hand, Thomas. Say hi. He's back there. He's 5 years old, holding one of our chickens. And then John Daniel, his partner in crime, younger brother, in age only, not in size, and ability to get in trouble together, is there. Dogs, cats. We've got a whole crazy family story that I'd love to get into about foster care, adoption, and all the craziness God has done in our life the last 15 years. But that's not why I'm here today, but that's sort of the backdrop of where all this started. So basically what happened was I was a teacher for 7 years at a local high school, then I worked at a local church for 7 years, and then I had this crazy, I think, very individual calling for me of what would happen if I came back home and started a family business so I could live and work and be with my kids. And so that was what happened, and we bought a house for $30,000 with no experience, and I took all 6 of my kids, who were 8 and under at that point, to the job site with me every day. Our homeschooling was remodeling. I had 3 2-year-olds at that point because of the way we were doing foster care. And we remodeled a home together. And if you're asking me, you should do that? No, it was crazy. My wife looked at me. She goes, is this a good idea? And I'm like, my head was so in the clouds. Afterwards, I was like, you're right, Charlie, that was a terrible idea. Only by God's grace did we get through that whole thing, So anyways, we did this experience, and we started working with our hands as a family. And we saw some incredible things happen with my own kids and what was happening in our family. So then my friends were like, can we do that too? And so they would hire me, and I would come into their house with their family, and they would actually work on the project. And so that was a very different experience for that whole thing, and that was really kind of and they had the same thing happen, where they were working alongside their kids. I don't know what it was like for you, but my dad would get mad in the wood shop and get pissed and kick me out. You know, it's kind of the typical experience of my generation. But I would equip them to actually work together as a family. And they had incredible results. And I took some of their squirrely 13, 14-year-old boys and put them to work for a whole summer. And they were different at the end of the summer. And the greatest testimonies I get are from the parents going, this. And we just watched this transformation. And that's when I then ran into Jerry. And then Jerry said, Justin, what you're doing, we've got to help. This can go other places. And so we've now, in the last year or so, whatever it's been, have taken this idea of a Conduit Apprenticeship Program, and we've made it some more formal. And so basically we're equipping young people to work with their hands, establishing a strong work ethic, and opening doors for meaningful and lucrative careers. So it's really made up of 3 pieces is what we do. So phase 1, and I'm going to get into this more, but just overview, I'm going to give you a hammer and a 4x4 and 300 nails. And you're going to hammer in 300 nails, and you're going to learn how to use a hammer with the idea of repetition being it. Then I'm going to hand you a drill, and then you're going to drill in 200 screws, and you're going to learn how to use a drill. Very repetition-based, not exciting, just work, training you. And then I'm going to teach you how to use hand tools, tape measures, power tools. Okay, I'm going to walk you through all of these in safe environments in a lab-based environment. Okay, that means like in a room where it's kind of controlled environment there. Then, if you pass that and you have more interest, and I think what Beth said was really, really telling, right? This doesn't mean, this is not just for people who want to go into the trades. This is just well-rounding your education. You just don't know how many things connect, dots connect. You have all this knowledge. You know, I love taking the kids out there and they pull a screw in and out and it's burning hot and they touch it and I said, didn't they teach you about friction at school? And they said, I know about it. I said, now you have wisdom. You know, like you have knowledge, but now you have wisdom, right? You know. So anyways, then you can move on to a 20-hour-a-week apprenticeship program on a real job site doing code-level, high-level work, and I'll show you pictures of all of that. Then for people, right, so you don't have to do all 3 of these. You can stop at level 1. You could stop at level 2. Then for some people are going, I think this might be for me, trade-wise. You can do a 6-month, and that's when you can start getting paid via like a stipend, working with a crew 30, 40 hours a week, you know, these various phases of things you can do. So that's a general overview, but I want to just show you some pictures. Why would you do this, right? We've sort of hit on this. There's a crazy need. You can be 18 years old, and you could have a job for $30,000 if you work with me and get through this. Easy, with an upward limit of fast, with no college debt, right? That is pretty crazy. You get a well-rounded, I always use the example of Thomas Jefferson knew how to work with his hands. He had a great mind, but he knew how to work with his hands. You had to in order to live. We don't have to learn how to work with our hands in order to live, but we're not as well-developed as human beings. We're too specialized at this stage. These are lifelong skills. Beth gave a great example. You might own your own home, and you could save so much money. It's a project you can do with your kids. It's just something you can do in your home. And I don't know about you, but I've got 6 kids, and if they're not busy, we have problems. So it is a great, great way to spend your time and energy doing something productive. So this is Henry and I. When we first started, I think he is 8, 9 years old at that point, tiling one of the floors of our rental property that we bought. And then they progressed, and I think they were, I don't know how old you were in this picture, Layla, but I would drop them off at a project, one of my rental houses, and say, would you go in and put a new ceiling fan in for me, you know? So the tenants would open the door, and these kids would show up, and they would be just shocked, you know? They're over there playing video games, so they're like adults, and like, I don't know how they did that. And they would do the whole project, and I'd come pick them up when they were done, you know? So they really went, and there's Henry and I building our chicken coop, and then he's sanding floors with me. You know, he kind of grew up real fast. There he is mudding. In fact, that's what he's doing at home right now for me this morning, for us and our family. So we, I think I did something, Steve, make this thing stop working. There we go. So then this is where it progressed. These are actually some PEP kids right here, the Shooner boys. I don't think they're in this campus. I think they're in a different campus. But their family bought a house, and they learned how to remodel it together. So they're boys, and they're actually good friends with Henry, so it was a neat experience for them. There they are tiling. And if you ever go see their house, it's beautiful. This was a story. We built a little bunkhouse together and framed it all out, put it all together, all done. David is another neat story. He actually came and lived with us. He was giving his parents such fits. He spent about 2 months or so and lived with us and was transformed by the experience. He worked with me 40 hours a week, and I busted his butt really hard. And the character and change that happened in his life, And 1 year after he went back home, his parents sent us a letter saying he's a different kid. Thank you. You know, he was transformed by this experience of working in it with his hands. He's putting on some metal trim there. There's Henry and Layla rebuilding a porch at one of my rental properties. Henry's cutting out some outlets in the wall boards. There they are running HVAC. I have relationships with trained professionals, so when we're doing specialty work, they come in and oversee it. And so we do everything up to code, inspected. All these projects you're seeing were inspected by the city. This was another family that hired me, and we did tile work in their home. The guy on the left with the hat on backwards is now a contractor in the city. He's kind of running his own deal and remodeling homes on his own now. These two guys are going to be like lawyers, so they were like, but they're best friends. And so we had a great time doing that project with them. There they are running some electric for the lights, setting in some hardwood floors. So the variety of the projects we do are pretty tremendous. This was a neat project here. The roof was, they didn't frame it correctly, so the roof was like a banana. So we had to jack up the ceiling and hold it in place. And they did this all. That was, I think they were 14 and 13 when they did this project together, obviously with my supervision. Then they had to go up in the rafters and secure it so it didn't fall back down. So they did that whole project. And just the amount you learn trying to level, it has to be perfectly plumb and level, and you got to jack it, slowly and brace it. And it was really, they really enjoyed doing that project. This summer we built a cabin out on 20 acres of land and framed it up from the ground up. And they're framing walls, lifting walls. There's Henry, my son, can wire an entire house, including the electric box, up to code, and he's 14 years old. So it's amazing and we have our houses inspected by the IBI and everything else like that. So I obviously have a lot of expectations of what kids can do, a lot higher. I really believe kids are way under-challenged. I know PEP, I'm preaching to the choir here. You guys challenge your kids really high. So anyways, these kids have learned and done a lot, and what they've learned skill-wise and character-wise, it's a unique environment where a lot can be happening. And then this will overlap with what we're doing here. We're working with an urban young life group in downtown Cincinnati. So we partnered with Jen, who's a leader down there, and we built a deck with her, and we said, we'll do this with you if your urban kids will come work on the project with us. I'm not going to build you a deck, but I want your kids to come and work on the project. Cavell right there, who set up, Henry's kind of like teacher now. He comes with me now when we're doing these projects and now is teaching with other people, which is really neat for him. But Cavell right there had never touched a power tool or a tool in his life. Had no idea if that, and he was just kind of going, he's a nice, good kid, but not passionate about school and struggling at doing it just to make his mom happy. He looked at, I cut one of those things for him for the deck piers, and I said, do you want to try this? He said, no, I don't. I said, well, you're going to do it anyways. And once he did it, and then he never looked back. And he built this whole deck with us from start to finish in December when it was cold, right? And he had a very transformative experience through this whole thing. He said, I just met with his mom this morning. His mom said he's a different kid. He'd come home, he was lit up. He now has something he wants to do with his future. So they built this whole deck together, and it was really neat how that all worked. We did circular saws, framing nailers. There's Henry and Cavell doing the railings, pouring cement for the slab. And it was just a neat thing. If you go to phase 2 of this thing, or even in phase 1, you may cross paths with inner city kids. So you see Henry and Cavell built a relationship, right? You got a kid come from a very different background and them, and they worked together and formed a relationship. And they were joking around how sore they were with using that auger. They both went home real sore. So there's just neat opportunities that are happening in this program that are really cool. So that's a little bit of the backstory of what we're doing here. And so where you start is right here, phase 1. We offer 5 classes. They're 2 hours each. And these 5 classes are, number 1 is hammer impact drill. Number 2 is tape measure drill driver. Number 3 is hand tools, building materials. And the last 2 are power tools. Okay, and so it looks a little bit of what I was talking about. You're going to be just nailing it in. Just learning the fundamentals with a hammer. And when you're done, you'll have a 4x4 that looks full of nails and screws. But you will know how to use the tools. And that actually, because I found every kid I was teaching couldn't use a drill, couldn't use a hammer, and it was too slow on the job site. I couldn't get them enough repetitions to get them good. So here they are with the tape measure. learning how to actually use a tape measure, read a tape measure in an environment that there's no pressure in. And it's a great, great learning environment. Everyone asked, I'm going to make sure I answer this. Yes, there can be girls in this program. There have been girls in this program. They've done this before. I mean, my heart and passion is to get young boys to be men, but obviously my daughters do this. Other girls have been a part of this, so they are super welcome to be super a part of this. But there they are doing this. Okay, so how do you do this? We got 5 classes that you can take, and there's 2 ways basically to do this. We're going to have on-site groups down at the Reju Center Wednesday and Fridays from 3 to 5 starting February 10th. If you haven't been there, it's a cultural experience waiting to happen. The building is 4 city blocks big. It's incredible. It'll freak you out a little bit, but it's a neat experience to go down there. And you can sign up for those classes and attend those. Or if you can get 8 people together and you have a room or a school or a garage, I will come to you. Okay, so you guys, we can figure out the best way to do this is because it's pretty mobile, and I'll bring all the supplies, all the tools that we need, and we can come to you for there. Okay. All right, I talk super fast. You must have 1,000 questions. I believe you do.
Where is the reuse center?
Downtown, or what do we call that?
Or the viaduct.
By the Western Hills, right by the Western Hills Viaduct, yes.
You would go either Wednesday or Friday?
Okay, yeah, good. Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to run it for 5 weeks, Wednesday and Friday. So you can come every Wednesday for 5 Wednesdays, or you can come Wednesday, Friday for 5 classes. Whatever works for you. Because I'm a very hands-on teacher. I'm going to talk for 10 minutes, and then you're going to be working. You're going to learn by doing in my classes, and because I really believe that's how you learn. So I can get multiple kids started on things, and they'll work, and then I'll come over, engage with them, so on and so on. Yes, Beth.
Is there a cost?
Yes. So the classes, do we have those flyers, Maddie? Maybe Layla and Thomas can pass those out. On there is the cost of it. If you do all 5 classes, it's $195, which is really a steal for what you're learning, considering we're going to provide the materials and everything else like that. These classes will cost a lot more in the future, but you guys are the groundbreakers, and we're still piloting it to some degree, so you'll be getting a good deal here.
Did you say $195?
$195 for all 5 classes. And if you sign up for them individually, the first three are, I think, $30, and the power tool one's much more expensive because I've got to have a lot more people there working you through those power tools. So those are $60 a pop. Yes.
If we wanted to host a PEP group, what facilities, what is required if we want?
Yeah. So basically, you just need a room that has space in it. And frankly, almost all my tools are even battery powered. So, I mean, 1 or 2 outlets is enough. So if you just have just a garage and space, we'll bring like the sawhorses to set things up on.
You said 8 kids?
Mm-hmm.
How big is space?
So, I mean, technically speaking, we need to be 6 feet apart. So whatever that means, you can sit and, you're going to work at a station like this. One kid is going to work at a station just like this with a half of a 4x4 in front of them, and they're going to work just like this. So if you had room for 8 kids to do something just like this, not right on top of each other, a little bit spread out so they're not hitting each other with a hammer would do it.
Excuse me, something that struck me, and I've thought about this before, and we've had some conversations, and I'm a guy, so I can only speak from a guy's perspective, but one of the things that I would bet is true about the PEP boys is that if they haven't been brought up on how to fix things around the house, so a leaky faucet, or I think of some, going to IKEA and getting some assembly required. For Christmas gifts, that was always like, I'm not buying that because there's some assembly required, means I'm not going to be able to build it, or I'm going to be very frustrated. And so, I from a guy's standpoint, from a young man's standpoint, the inexperience in building things really affects us. And so, and again, I can only speak from a guy's perspective, like not being asked by family members to fix things because you don't know how to fix things, because the kids aren't being brought up building tree houses and taking lawnmowers apart and put them back together. And so, excuse me, I think we've robbed young boys of an opportunity to get value and worth out of actually fixing things around the house. And so you were talking about like our society today. It's like you can just call and I can get a plumber, an electrician, I can get people to come to the house to fix things. But there's like little simple things, like I saw the video with Shooners where the boys were changing electrical outlets, which most boys, you wouldn't want them anywhere near the electrical outlets. And for them, those young men to be, I don't know how old they were back when they were fixing those things.
13, 14, 15 or something.
Yeah, it's just, and so I also wonder, like, is there a fear, might there be a fear for moms and or for the boys to, like, be exposed, like to be embarrassed? You know, like, I don't know how to do anything. I don't know how to fix anything. So why would I want to go to this where it's just going to, like, put a big spotlight on, I don't know how to do things. I've never many of these kids, Justin, have never swung a hammer before. And so I often wonder, like, do we have to help these people get over that barrier to say, hey, just try it and see, just, you know, which we've talked about doing, like, you know, assemblies or something. Just let the kids try it and just expose them. And so I wonder the mindset of young boys.
Yeah, because we're in the self-esteem deal where you want everyone to feel good by just telling them you're great. But there is something to this idea of actually accomplish something and then saying thank you. Like children are meant to be in the Bible a blessing. I'm going to equip your children to be blessings in your home, not liabilities. As sucking resources, no, they'll actually provide blessings. And that was so neat about the Shooner family. They couldn't believe how helpful and what a blessing their children are now, day in, day out to their lives. I mean, they've turned that coin. Instead of just sucking resources, they're actually giving back to the family, which is a really healthy, good, holistic thing to do.
It's almost like a mobile shop class in some ways. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so we have a website, cincyconduit.com. There's registration on there, so you can sign up for the on-site classes. Correct, Maddie? Maddie's back there. Maddie's going to do a lot of the admin. Thank God, or this thing would be. We have a great visionary and a good teacher, but that's not everything you need. So we were thankful that Maddie's around, so that you can sign up on there, and you can also sign up to host your own class online as well. Okay, yeah, both of that stuff is up online. And so the goal is, like, for some kids, not all of them, some kids this summer we're going to have a house. Like, so February 1st, we're starting on a house in Cavell that you saw in this picture is going to work on this house. So he's on phase 2 of this program. So if you guys go through this now, I'm going to only have slots for 4 to 8 kids, depending on the size of the project this summer. There's going to be an opportunity for people to work with me 20 hours a week this summer on these projects. But you have to go through phase 1. You've got to get these baseline skills, A, to find out if you like it, and B, I'll be able to say, like, I think you've got something that would be worth you to go farther on this thing. So there's going to be opportunities this summer to work on real projects.
And one of the pictures showed Erin with an E, and she was one of our best students as well. And
yeah.
She's got an amazing, she's 17. She's 17. And she's got amazing opportunities in front of her as well.
She did great in this class.
And Beth mentioned our company. I employ a lot of folks with high school diplomas. I employ a bunch of young people with college degrees. One kid just graduated with a theater degree. Well, COVID, he can't perform, and so I've hired him, and we're exploring ways for him to use his giftings. He worked at a Home Depot throughout college. And a lot of these kids have 6-figure debt, and I'm hiring them. I hired a young man with a sports marketing degree, which is, been evaporated with COVID as well. And so we're helping him, but again, another six-figure debt. Jacob, who's got his teaching degree in art, I was telling him about the other apprenticeship program that we're exploring. He's got well over a six-figure debt. And, so these kids, some of these young people are trying to figure out, I got to go to college, which is the way I was brought up. I got to go to college. I'm not deterring if there's people that are, like, college is good, and it's my kids, I spend a lot of money for my kids to get college degrees. But there's a lot of debt that can be associated with it as well. And when you graduate, you might end up working in a trades business at some capacity anyway. Really interesting.
There were a couple of thoughts I had in the scriptures that I forgot to mention that I wanted to throw out there as sort of our theme verses for our PEP Works program. 1 Thessalonians 4:11. Make it your ambition to lead a quiet life and attend your own business and work with your hands, just as we command you.
It's on my wall at home.
Is it? And then Ephesians 2:8. Well, the first part doesn't apply to us. Let he who steals steal no longer. Well, I guess if you're using government funds to fund your education, you're sort of stealing from your neighbor. But anyway, but rather he must labor, performing with his own hands what is good, so he will have something to share with those who have need. So it isn't all about our own career. We don't make it our own career for our own benefit, but hopefully, the graduates with that works program will go on and work enough to provide for their own families and have enough left over to provide for those in need. That's our goal as ambassadors of God, that charity part that you're going to give these kids a vision for that, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the kids I've already worked with now go on service projects. And I'll hear back, like, I couldn't believe this kid, a 14-year-old, showed up and he was actually helping use the drill, use this thing. To your point, they were giving back with the skills they have. Absolutely. I mean, it just gives you a way to give back. You can give money, which is great, you should be doing that, right? But you could also give your time and skills. You can go to a service project or whatever.
Yourself.
Absolutely.
Not just your money.
Yeah, absolutely. It's well said.
Is the apprenticeship just during the summer?
No. So homeschoolers and now everybody else, because they're all homeschooling to some degree, are more available.
Yeah.
But originally, I've always run it during the summer because of that. But I've always had homeschoolers who were willing to flex their schedules, could do the apprenticeship. So no, it's definitely available when you graduate from the 5 classes. Then it becomes a kind of negotiation. Like, okay, when you're going to start, how many hours you're going to work, what's your life like?
That requires a bit.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does. In fact, this phase, what we had talked about, and these gentlemen are available, and you're the main one who needs to be available. But we're going to be here too.
I'm available if there's food, coffee involved.
Oh, yeah.
You can count on me.
Entirely possible.
Yeah.
But we were thinking to accommodate PEP studies is to have it on Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
So your kids can get done with their PEP work, they
Yeah.
study hard on the 3 days, up until the time the class is. And then, Friday afternoon, they're probably done with their PEP work if they had devoted themselves diligently all week long. So there's motivation to put the phone down and do your work, and then go on for further training. So that, I think, so if we want to have our own little pet thing on Friday afternoon, that would be, well, you're doing it 3 and 5.
It's one of the reasons I chose Friday afternoon because of that.
Yeah, but you're going to be there at the reuse center then.
That's
so
what I have it.
We'll do it locally. We may have to on Friday.
Okay. I mean, I'm trying to think if we've not published that 3 to 5 yet. Maddie, we haven't really published that yet, have we? Okay. So if you really quickly, if you want to do that, then I could do it a different day at the reuse center.
Oh, okay.
And do yours at 3 to 5. I sort of picked Friday at 3 to 5 because you had told me that was a good window for your.
I want to make it super easy so our kids, our people don't have to drive that.
Sure.
I'm sure somebody has a garage. I have a garage. Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
that'd be great. Yeah, just get in touch with me ASAP,
Yeah,
and
after
I'll change
tomorrow's
it.
meeting, we'll put our heads together.
Come.
That Steve Morales, do y'all know Steve Morales? He is heading up this PEP Works project, getting it gear up and start, he's Emily Morales' husband.
Right,
Lucky man. So,
That's right, that's it, yeah.
so he's the one making this happen at Penn.
Well, the secondary benefit is, depending on where the location is exposure to some of the urban kids, which the diversity is just amazing. I live in Newport, Kentucky, and some of these kids, like where you built the deck, is 5 minutes from my house. And I don't know if I chose not to see the way that these kids were being brought up. Where you built that deck is like a war zone. It's 5 minutes from my house. And I'm embarrassed to say, I didn't know that there was such a huge need in our city. So to get some of those kids around some of the suburban kids too has been really interesting. I've learned a lot I've learned a ton just by hanging out with these kids.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. We've been on the mission field, but this daughter, we came back when she was 6. So she doesn't have that same knowledge base of people in need or like third world country or just people are living different. It's more of an entitlement.
This kid, Ishan, which we've got some videos on him.
Or Ishan, or anything.
Ishan, well, no, specifically, he, one of 6, they have a 2-bedroom apartment. He sleeps in a chair. So he doesn't even have a bed. And he's the happiest, I mean, he's charming, he's got a huge smile, and, you know, what those kids are working through compared to what my kids were. I raised my kids in Fort Thomas, so we didn't see any diversity, is another secondary benefit. And you put a hammer, and Ishan never swung a hammer. They had blisters, they were hitting their thumbs the first day. It's amazing when they came back. But they loved, it was hard. And they were exposed to something that was really hard and difficult. But, a kid, in Fort Thomas that never swung a hammer, being right alongside Ishan is really interesting. So there's all kinds of layers of benefits. And Justin, quite candidly, praying, and I prayed and I twisted his arm quite a bit to have somebody that is uniquely gifted as Justin is. Justin's a great father and he's a great teacher. And so if you watch him work with the kids, it's just incredibly patient and kind and challenging. You encourage and challenge the kids. So you also, as we're praying people in, God, for me, I feel like God's given us Justin in this season of his life, and we certainly want to get some other Justins in there as well to help train young people.
Yeah. Most contractors hate teaching, and so I learned a lot by getting cussed at and yelled at, and I have no patience. So, that's not that's not my job site. That's not how we got it. It's high challenge, but high love.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a way, what's the best way to find out? It sounds like there may be a group that might form. How can we find out more? Like, will we receive an email? Should we reach out to someone to kind of find out what's happening and what the possibilities are? And then we also have the Mason meeting.
You read my mind. I was just thinking that same thought. What I'd like to do is that people sign up online, or if they turn in a form here, is there a way they can identify the different steps so we can kind of coordinate and see if we get to 8 people? So I think ideally,
absolutely.
Yeah, ideally, if you could work your network and approach us and say, we've got 8, we're ready to go, that would be perfect, I think. But if you're...
Maddie would be coordinating for that.
Yeah.
So,
Maddie
the form that you hand out, Maddie, do they have a sign-on form?
No, but they can check online. And I think on the online form, ask how you're affiliated.
Okay.
So like an issue is if I go check affiliated, I can contact all those people together and
Yeah.
see if the report.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, so yeah, if you do that, please specify in the jurisdiction that we'll coordinate that. See if we can get a forward or try.
We have 12 kids from that coming to my place. So it could be we would have an entire full class or 2 if everybody here. Of text students.
there's some testimonies on the webpage, but there's a packet of other testimonies if you want to read through that of what other parents have said about, and kids have been their response of working through this thing.
That's good.
Yes, we get a cohort going.
Okay.
We'll-
I love it.
cohort,
Let's
yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
Let's get it going.
Should we have a deadline of let us know?
Yeah.
If you want that Friday at 3 to 5, then there's going to be a tight deadline.
Yeah,
So,
we can do that.
but if you don't want that slot, then I can change because I haven't. You guys, with Beth, you guys are like inroad number 1, but we're going to be going to the public schools in another month. But we're going to be like doing some stuff. So you guys are on the ground floor of this thing.
That's it, like,
That starts early.
But do we know how many children we have represented in the school right now? I have one, possibly two.
Probably most of us are about 8 to 8, but I thought you were listening to
6 to 8.
Let's say
Yeah.
6
6
to 8.
to 8. Okay. Yes, that's why we have someone who had admin experience here. Yes.
Oh,
I was doing that.
yeah, if I had an own do it, I might just make Abby do it. I mean, give her the opportunity
Sure.
to do it.
5, 6, well, 7 if you count Sam, but you're up there.
Yeah, our schedule's a little complicated, we try to figure out something which is 6.
So we have 7 here that have shown that don't usually.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I just don't, I don't think I'd be figuring that right. So.
Well, so anyway, we have 2 groups, because we can take them in our.
What about Saturday? Is that your?
Saturday's not a great day for me.
Okay.
Multiple groups.
And Beth, they're looking for videos going out, Steve, right after both meetings.
Yes.
So, there might be other families interested from this campus that just couldn't make this meeting, so.
So we're getting on
And
that.
if we had 2, one from each campus, it could be on a PEP day afternoon. You know, like a 4 to 6 or something. It could be a 4 to 6 local. You know, this is your program. It's not PEP isn't doing this. What we're doing this together, so we can together make it look like this.
So then who was the point person for trying to organize this group?
Maybe,
Okay.
but you'll be going signing up through the website. Maybe you can get it, I'll coordinate with parents, the administrators, who will have information on this as soon as possible.
Isn't this cool? This is so cool. My husband kind of.
Emily wants to do it too, so no, you.
Yeah.
All right, we're good. Well, if there are no questions, thanks everyone for your time. Thank you guys for joining us.
I think we.
Grab a piece of pizza on your way out if you
Please.
haven't. Thomas, did you guys get pizza yet? Oh, you did. You want another piece?
All right, good.
Thank you, Justin.
Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah.
I know you're not big on like assemblies for.
I'm terrified of doing this in front of kids. I just know that.
But to vet, almost like a. I was just thinking of Leighton, who I have on my. He comes in as an intern with me. I just think of some of the kids